I'm Tanya Ahina with Century 21 iProperties Hawaii. My guest today is Rose Kirland of Aries Mortgage. She is a senior loan officer there, and today she joins us to talk about forbearance
I
loans.
love to. Aloha, Tanya, and everyone out there in the world. I'm Rose Kirland. I actually have been in the mortgage business for over 41 years. I started back in 1979 and worked for many companies because in the mortgage world, companies sometimes sell, merge, get taken over. So at one time, I was the vice president for PNC Financial for the Kissel Company. And then over the years, I've been doing mortgages for many, many families, thousands of families. I am a mother of 4 sons. And I say 4 because the grandkid really thinks he's one of my kids. So I said, no, you're my grandson. And I am of 14 other brothers and sisters. So yes, we have a really big family, but I love mortgage business because it's about helping families and helping people get started with a plan to one day own their own home. So I'm happy to be here today and answer all your questions.
What is a forbearance loan?
Okay, so a forbearance is basically that you are given a deferment. So let's say because of situations that are happening right now, financially, you're unable to make your mortgage payments, let's say starting May. So you can request from your lender, and it's totally up to the lender, but you can request from your lender that you would like to have your loan mortgage payments forbeared or deferred. So forbearance means that for the next 6 months, you don't have to make a single mortgage payment. Now, that does not mean that the mortgage payment goes away. It just means that you're given a release of that tension and that stress so that you can reorganize your financial matters and then be ready to pay it back at the end of the forbearance term. And what we need to be very careful of is that forbearance, as Tanya had mentioned earlier, does not mean forgiveness. It does not mean you do not have to pay back. It just means that your payments are delayed. There will be no late charges, no penalties during that period of forbearance, but you do have to pay it back when the forbearance is due. So let's say, as an example, you start off May 1 and you don't make any payments for the next 6 months. On the 7th month, what happens? All those 6 months that you did not pay are due on that 7th month, plus the 7th month. So it's a big chunk of change. And you really need to have a plan of action to do that. I had a client, a customer who needed to do forbearance, and they clocked it so that they would not be in a desperate situation where they list their property and the agent would have to list the stress sale. They did not want that because it possibly might indicate to buyers out there that you can lowball the offer for something that's really valued at what it was listed at. So they requested a forbearance, and the listing was taken and a property was sold and closed within the 3 months. Their credit was not affected because there were no late payments charged. Nothing was reported to the credit bureau once the forbearance was approved, and they had the funds to pay off what they were due on the deferment. Now that's a plan of action. I'm sure many of us in owning our home, if we would like to consider forbearance, does not want to have to resort to selling our home necessarily, but that's an example of a plan of action to find a way to pay back the 6 months plus the month that is due in. Well, we have seen the pros and the cons of doing forbearance. So when you are considering it, the first thing you should look at is how many months down the road do you think you're going to run into payment trouble? So for example, today you might be able to make the payment, and May you might be able to make the payment, but possibly June, July, August, you're not able to because you're either waiting for your unemployment check or your tax return refunds, your stimulus check. So what you want to do is apply for the forbearance ahead of time, because lenders are not magicians that overnight say, voila, you have the forbearance. So it could take a lender as much as 30 to 60 days to approve the forbearance. And that's where we have the mistake that you suddenly are being charged a late fee because you're not making your payment while you're waiting for the forbearance approval. So you need to be careful about that, strategize. And right now, when you look at your world of finances, you can tell right away if you're going to run into trouble. You can tell you're going to run into trouble if you cannot make your Spectrum or online internet payment, that you're going to run into trouble. So prepare, be aware of that, look at the down the road and make your application to your lender right away. Now, the problem with the end result is that the good news is that if you can pay it, that's wonderful. But if you can't pay it before the forbearance is due, you need to talk to your lender about possibly doing a modification and modify your loan, which is another nice way of saying refinance without a whole bunch of fees. Modify your loan during the forbearance period, so that when it comes due, your modification would have been approved and you go into a new loan without having the stress that if I couldn't handle $1,000 6 months ago every month, how am I going to handle $7,000 6 months later? And that's another strategy that I've advised to people, and you really have to stay on the lender. Now, what's unusual about this time, the pandemic, is that lenders are more willing to help you with forbearance and to help you with modification. If not for the pandemic, you probably would have to go late on your mortgage payments before they would believe that you're struggling. But because of the pandemic, they might see that you were working and now you're making less, but you still have the same high debt that you were capable of paying when you were making more.
People are thinking, oh, this is my solution, this is my solution. And really, if you were having trouble before, is this something that's really going to help you? Or could set you back even further and make things even more complicated? Can you maybe address that?
Yes, forbearance is not the cure-all. It's when people come to ask me, should I refinance? Just because the interest rates are 3.5% does not mean you should refinance. You might be finishing off your mortgage at 4.25% interest rate, but you might only have 15 years left. You're in a way better position than trying to refinance at 3.25% and starting all over again on a 30-year mortgage. So when you are looking and thinking about redoing your mortgage or deferring it or taking on forbearance or modification, you have to look at everything that's unique to you, because every individual, every household has a different circumstance. Forbearance is not for everyone. You could lose your home if you don't make those payments. You could lose your home in 3 to 4 months after the forbearance was due because you didn't pay all that back payment, plus more are adding up. So you really need to consider those factors. Some of the other ways is check with your realtor. There might be a special program that the county has opened up for people regarding credits or things like that. And some people have actually gone to the distance of listing their home and downsizing to a smaller home, or possibly listing their home and looking at regrouping and then buying again, because you just don't want to have that shelter done all over you. I mean, that's just one of many ways. If you have a financial advisor, sometimes they'll advise you other things that involve legal action, such as bankruptcy or things like that. But really, everyone wants to try to remain and stay in their home. And believe me, lenders do not want to take your home away. So we try everything we can to work with you, or at least they're supposed to in the servicing department, work with you to try to help you stay in your home and keep your home. It was rampant back in 2009 for modifications, where lenders were required to give people a chance. And that's what's happening today, too. The pandemic has caused a rift in our way of life. It's had dramatic, drastic changes that we've had to adjust to. And one of the biggest challenges and things that we suffer and struggle with is always the dollar, because things cost money. And people have considered downsizing by selling off their cars or trying to sell things that they don't need anymore to get rid of some other debt. There are other avenues that sometimes realtors have found that your home is possibly capable of having rental income to help you offset your payments. Or maybe I've seen a customer just last month sell their home because they were having these issues and did not want to look at forbearance. And the realtor found them a home that had a small little unit that they could rent out, that was attached to the garage, for extra income to help them make the mortgage payment. They're much more comfortable. Everything, my dear friends, everything is about cash flow. And so to try to keep that cash flow manageable. But going back to forbearance, it's a vehicle that's available to you, but it's your responsibility. It's on you to be able to pay it back when it comes due.
Heard someone say that some companies, some mortgage companies or lenders will roll the whole thing out over a 12-month period, so you don't have to pay it back in a 6-month, 7th-month period. Is that correct?
It could be for some lenders. Not all lenders are the same. So you could have a lender that's very flexible and looking at your situation and panning it out. Will say, okay, we'll give you a forbearance for 6 months, but it doesn't look like as your income grows and becomes better that you'll be able to pay that lump sum. So we will adjust the 7th month through the next 12 months, a little bit of each month that you were forbeared. So for example, the forbearance might be $1,000 a month. So that's $6,000. Your payment is a regular $1,000 a month. And I use just 1,000 for zero easy visualization. So in the 7th month, instead of paying the whole 7,000, the lender would divide the 6,000 among the next 12 months, which would mean $500, correct? Each month. 6,000 into 12 months is 500. So your new payment would go up slightly as far as the lender is concerned. It may not be slightly to you, but it will go up to 1,500 to help repay the 500 each month that you were forbearance on for the next 12 months. And then after that, you go back to your regular payment. Now, that has worked really well, but you really need to have that exit strategy cleared and upfront with the lender before they come down with the hatchet. The problem with servicing is you never know who you're going to be speaking to at any day at the servicing department. And you could have a really lovely servicing person like Tanya, or you could have a growling troll, and you just don't want to chance that. So if you have a lovely servicer like Tanya, who is sympathetic, but yet has to fulfill her role as a lender, she'll work with you and calculate ahead of time. Nobody wants disasters. Nobody wants to know the future will be glim. So I would suggest highly that while you're doing the relief strategy, which is forbearance, also work with your lender on the exit strategy so that you're not caught off guard. But that is a way that they say what you were saying, rolling it out or rolling it
Let's
over.
make this clear that if they're going to consider forbearance, they got to make sure that when they're talking to their lender, first off, talk to someone that you can talk to and communicate effectively and properly and really help you rather than just give you a product that you don't know what to do with. So choosing wisely the person you work with upfront, making sure that, okay, you know what you're getting into, but then how are you going to get out of it successfully? Can this hurt someone's credit? Does it hurt someone's credit?
It can and may not. Number one, it can hurt your credit if you're already delinquent and going through forbearance. Now, the forbearance part is not going to hurt your credit, but going through it and being late is what hurts your credit. So the period of time that you're in forbearance, it does not hurt your credit. However, when you find a need to apply somewhere and they see on the credit report 0 payments for that month, they will be concerned. A creditor will be concerned. And in that light, it may hurt you and your credit, depending if you're trying to seek additional credit while you were in forbearance. So that's an if and no type of thing. But we would strongly encourage that if that is your last resort, then really plan well getting out. How do I get out? And if selling your home is an option from the beginning, hey, there you have your exit strategy. Work with Tanya and set things up. If it isn't, if you want to stay in your home, you really need to either have some source of income that's going to come to you or a windfall gift horse of money that falls in your lap or work with the lender.
What other options would someone have besides this?
Well, I always wanted a rich fairy grandmother, but I never had one. That would be my best option. And I'm not really good at growing vegetables and selling it at the farmer's market. That would be my second best option. The thing that's hard is, a lot of times, even the pandemic adds to our situation. A lot of times we're in a bad situation to begin with, and that's the reality. Sometimes we're already in a bad situation, whether no matter what the reason was, but we're there. And now the pandemic comes, we're even in a worse situation. Now what happens? And so I think that the relief, that story about the dike where they put the finger in the water to stop the dam from bursting, that's really all forbearance is. And you can't hold that dam of water very long. It's going to come and bite you. This is a time where you really have to do a reality check. And I have advised many, many people over the years, over 41 years, nothing's more important than your health and your well-being, because you can always recover if you want to. If it comes to that where that's your last resort, selling is an option if you own your home. And if that's the last resort, and usually that comes because someone has already been in a bad case for a while. And the forbearance is just giving them more opportunity to have a better chance at having the listing sold better than being sold as a desperate seller. The other option is take on the forbearance when you're working with your service, with the lender. They call them the servicer. Take on the forbearance if you find that they will give you a payment plan to repay that works for you. Don't say, yeah, and then it doesn't work for you and you're back in there again. And then the other route is work on the forbearance plan and work on your modification. Now, modifications are a good thing. As I was saying, in the panic years of 2008 through 2014, people were getting modifications at the first 2 years was 1%, the second year was 2%, the third year was 3%. That's how many of them saved their homes. Are those available now? Yes, they are. But there's not that many people are in that much trouble right now, except now it's a different story because of the pandemic. Forbearance is a venue. Exit is an excellent strategy. Modification, and do not be afraid that if it is your very, very last resort, letting go, selling, regrouping, regaining your life. Nothing's more important than your life and your health, and then coming back again. And that has happened with many people. That, incidentally, has happened with people who claim bankruptcy. When you claim bankruptcy, you can't do much for 7 years. 7 years later, they're back owning 1 home, 2 homes, 3 homes. So there are ways for you to come back. You don't have to knock yourself out. I want to consider, especially during this time, which is an exception, lenders have waived their late fees. So typically on a typical average mortgage, not one of those outreach mortgages that were from the days of 1995 of 16% interest rate and you didn't have to make income as long as you paid it. Today, lenders across the nation are not charging you late fees even if you don't pay your mortgage payment by the 1st or within the 15 grace period. So if you paid your mortgage payment on April 30, you will not be assessed a late charge and it will not be reported to the credit bureau. And that's only because of COVID pandemic. How much longer the lenders will continue to allow that grace, we're not certain. It could be 5 months after the quarantine is lifted. It could be immediate. But for now, to help you adjust, readjust, and adapt to your new financial flow of income and outflow of debt, your mortgage lenders are not supposed to be charging you late fees or penalties. So you may want to check with your lender. Hey, friendly lender, I'm not able to make my payment by the grace period of the 15th. Will you be charging me a late fee or reporting it to the credit bureau? First Hawaiian Bank, Bank of Hawaii, I know for sure are not charging late fees.
Good information. At least it gets people thinking, hey, hold the horses on the forbearance. Don't just run out and go get it. If people have questions, how would they reach you?
Yes, you can always contact me if you have any questions. My telephone number is 808-276-5093. My email is very simple. It's D for dashing 49 because I love the 49 San Franciscos. Rose, R-O-S-E, at lovelygmail.com. So it's d49rose@gmail.com. And I'm available if you want to just talk story about your situation. Everything is confidential. As a lender, That's the number one thing. We're like attorneys and doctors. Everything is confidential about your file and about what you share with me. But yes, absolutely. We're here to help, and we love for people to stay in their homes because that's what being in this industry, realtors and lenders, it's about everyone helping each other, and it's about helping our fellow humans not only have a comfortable home to be in, but one that they can enjoy for the rest of their lives.
And before you go, is there some kind of quote or book or some kind of inspiration you can leave your audience in this time, especially during this time?
Thank you so much. I do practice meds, and our family does M for meditation because it matters to each of us what's inside of us, and take some time for yourself. E, to do some kind of exercise, even if it's just walking to the refrigerator and getting an energy bar. D, for being sure to eat at least a meal a day, because I know during this time, some of us get so engrossed and wrapped up in so many things, we actually forget to have that basic routine of sitting down for a meal. And S, which I love the most, is try to get more sleep than you have been because you've been watching Netflix. But that's my code for the evening. Live, love, laugh and laugh again. Thank you so much, Tanya.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for being on here with me.
Take your meds every day.
That is a good one. I love it. Thanks, Rose. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Bye. Mahalo.
Aloha.
Mwah.
Take care.